Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Monday. I want to hope that I don't disappear too much into my green screen. I wasn't thinking this morning and I woke up and I put on a green tank top. So if it's just a floating head, um, that's why. Turn the lights down just a little. I feel like getting blown out here. All right, you guys, you ready to talk about what the kids are learning in classes this week? It is week 3 of April for everybody. And everybody has class this week. Can you believe it? It is, you guys, I was counting it up. If you're in a drawing class or if you're in a multimedia class, you have 6 classes left in the school year. If you're in a preschool class, you have 4. Isn't that crazy? So we are at the tail end of our school year here, kind of just a downhill slide. So we're going to talk about everything that's happening. I have a lot on my desk here because I brought some things from the multimedia classes to show you. We're going to walk through and talk about it. So let's see if there's any other notes I need to know. Nope. All right, preschool fundamentals. So this week we're going to be reading the Lumberjack's Beard, and we're going to make more collage art that uses some of the wool roving, which is what we talk about in multimedia class because our 4th and 5th, our homeschool, 6th, 7th, and 8th, 12th are all using wool roving. So our preschoolers will get to do a little wool roving project with collage to make their Lumberjack's Beard. Last week we read we were still kind of like flip-flopped. So last week in Platte Woods, they did Have You Seen a Flower? And last week in Liberty, we did, it was a duck book. It used to be Make Way for Ducklings, and we changed it. It's Duck Soup. So those were fun. That kind of wraps up our nature month. And we did a lot of collage projects. Platte Woods got to make their little perfume bottles, and they used the hammers and made the prints. So hopefully you saw some really great pictures of that. So preschool classes, this is your last week of April. So looking at the calendar, you will have off days next week. So just be aware of that. We'll talk about it in next week's video, but this is preschool. This is your last week of classes. It's your 3rd week, and then you'll have an off day next week. For our, oh, look here, I did 2 slides. Look at this. There we are making some flower prints. So Miss Sarah's down there with some of her artists with the rubber mallets and the muslin and the flowers. And then Liberty had their flower still lifes. So we drew them with chalk pastels. All right, K3rd. Let's talk through K3rd. I've got stuff to show you. I only brought 2. I just grabbed them right out of the closet, and they were like the 2 like right on top. I didn't even look at them. But I did like that they were very varied. So, they got the sticks, right? And then they're working on their fibers. So you can see we've got to go through all of the yarn, right? And learn how to use a skein. We have to cut it, a lot of great fine motor skills, and then we have to knot it here at the top. And so this is done using a slip knot, and then it's pulled nice and tight. And these artists actually in this class are doing a really good job of getting it to go all the way across. So we got a lot of stuff still to cover. And then they'll get to do things like weaving or knotting or tying. And they get to give it a haircut if they decide it wants to have a certain shape to it. And we'll do pom-pom making and different things for embellishing. Here's another really great example of an artist. I love the fact that it is so even right here at the top. And they've got kind of a whole rainbow of colors happening, which is so fun. And so they'll fill that up. A lot of them have just this temporary aperture to hold it with a pipe cleaner. And then once they get all of their stuff on, they'll get to do a more finished wire and beads, or maybe just wire hanger for it. Or some of them might choose a yarn hanger or fiber hanger. That's fine too. For our 4th and 5th grade classes, we're doing needle felting. And I brought some examples of theirs just to kind of show you. So they have these felt strips that at the end will either be a bookmark or a cuff bracelet. And they are using a barbed needle to make that wool roving tangle up and stick onto their felt. And so this is a really great example of maybe more of an abstract design or a geometric design that's happening on our cuff bracelet. And the more that you stab it, the more dense and homogeneous it becomes instead of being really, really fluffy. So that's a good example. Some of them have actually got something that looks like actually representational. Like I can tell what that is. It's not just colors and patterns.
And some people decided to go colors and patterns. So there's a really great example of one that's a little more representational. We have more that aren't green. I'm just making sure to. Oh, this is the one in the photo. Look at that. So it's kind of like a collage or something, but instead of using glue, we're using a needle to get it to stick on there. And you have to pull all the fibers in order to shape them into. That one's too much green. Is there any more? Here's one that isn't green. That one is very dense. They did a good job with all their needle felting and their layering. So we'll see what happens as they move down. So the artist, I asked the staff at the meeting Friday if anybody who teaches this class and does this project is worried about timing. So that's something that we think a lot about, is making sure that our artists have enough time to finish it. Not only that, like they have enough time, but not too much time. Like you don't want a ton of extra time at the end. And everybody said that timing wise, that we were really lining up really well, and that they weren't worried about anybody finishing it. It looked like a lot of our kids, the majority of them, will be almost done by the end of this week, by the end of week 3. And that leaves week 4 for us to do things like stitching. So doing like an embroidery stitch. We can do a whip stitch around the edge. We can do a running stitch. We can sew buttons on. We can sew sequins on. So we'll do a little bit of that work for the kids that want it. It's totally optional for finishing in our fiber arts. Okay. For our 6th, 7th, and 8th, 12th, I did not have any great pictures, but I did bring examples. So we're going to show them. I'm assuming that's a pickle, but it's so green you're not going to see it. That's amazing. We told the kids that when they were picking their subject that little animals or little figures work really well as food items. And so there's so much good stuff. So this is also needle felting. It's done with the barbed needle and the like really flossy wool roving. It looks like cotton candy. But as they stab it, it becomes dense. And so like if I squeeze this, it doesn't collapse on itself, and then all the pieces are together. That is really good. So we've got a couple figurines there. And then I've got ones that look like they're coming along, but maybe we don't quite know what they are yet. So this one here is in a lot of different pieces. So we've been constructing. Ooh, I know what it's going to be. These two are hooked together, so that tells us, but we've got some good stuff happening here. So, and then this is the base color that we had. We had white and we had black as their base, and then they were putting a skin of color over the top of it. So here's another one that's super dense. It looks like we're working on covering, or maybe not. Maybe the white stays like that. I don't know. It looks like a Pokeball. Good times. All right. So that's all the ones to show. I also asked the team how they felt timing wise for this group, and they weren't worried. So they're just going to keep on working on that needle felting. We've got 2 more class periods. If your kid comes home and's like, I'm going to need more time, there's no way I'm going to finish. That was probably a conversation that they had with their instructor. And they're welcome to come in for a makeup. We have that extra studio time option on Wednesdays in Liberty or Fridays in Flatwoods. That's always a good time to come in. If that doesn't work for your family, for these older kids here, a lot of times, like if they just want to come in for the class before theirs, and I mean, they can sit in that class and also work on needle felting. Like it's not that big of a deal, especially because it's fiber month and we've all got the needle felting stuff out anyway. So they could definitely do that. Just talk to me or Sarah or their instructor or something so that we know that you're coming and we can communicate to the team. But there's a lot of opportunities, especially for these older kids, to come in and have additional work time in the studio, beyond just that makeup time that we have every week. Okay. All right, creative explorations. This is going to be our well, I was going to say this is going to be our last week of April stations, but it's not, because again, we had crazy weather on Friday. And so we made the decision for those Friday creative explorations classes to move it to their off day. We have an off day coming up actually on May 1st. It was supposed to be an off day, and I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and put the April class on that one. And that way nobody's driving in tornadoes. So thankfully, it didn't look like we had any terrible weather, but
it was nice to be able to just not worry about it. So we've got our last creative explorations class in Platte Woods happening this week on Wednesday. So that'll be your last April class. We'll go through these stations. I know I talked to Jackie at the staff meeting, and she said that she's also added in a collaging station for them with the felt so that they can still create with fiber, but also have something with a little bit more of a build aspect to it. I know in Liberty, we added in some needle felting for those kids that were interested in it. So, it's a very child-directed class, as we have said, and that includes like if we feel like this particular group of kids would be really interested in something else we're doing in the studio, we try to get it out for them. So for the Liberty people, we didn't have class last week, but we are going to have class this week. That'll be your second April class, and then your third one. Let me get it right. Your third one will happen next week, which is May 1st. Okay. We'll talk about it in next week's video so that everybody remembers. Okay. Drawing 101. I didn't bring any drawing stuff this week because I went through it last week and I was like, oh, it's a lot of books. So we're just going to talk about drawing classes. It is benchmark month. So everybody is working through in 101 and 102 realistic, a benchmark lesson, something that we've already done once this year in order to see the growth and give us a chance to tackle something super familiar. So last week in our drawing 101 class, we tackled a value scale lesson. In the first semester, it was just focused on eyes and understanding that there are no lines in our facial features, that we are just working with values, and that the different shapes and forms are indicated by the change in value. So we did a value scale worksheet, and then we looked at facial features. So moving into second semester, it wasn't just eyes. We also had noses and mouths, and we had a lot of fun doing that lesson. In our third week, which is this week here, the Drawing 101 classes are going to be doing a portrait from imagination using Sumi ink. So again, this is a lesson that we've done before. When drawing 101, we try to make sure we're always drawing from life, we're drawing from photograph, and we're drawing from imagination, which are kind of the three different ways we use our brain when we're drawing. Two ways are observational, and then one is the library of images that we have in our brain. So this is when we work from our imagination. It's a more illustrative style of drawing because drawing 101 doesn't have those two tracks like 102 does. So we want to make sure we include illustrative styles. So we'll use Sumi ink and draw kind of what we've been doing the entire month so far, but this time from our brains. And so we'll do our portraits from our imagination using ink. In our 102 lessons, so I'll start with realistic, even though this is a picture of illustrative. Our realistic are also back to benchmarks. And in our last week of classes, we did a chalk pastel landscape. Now keep in mind, just because it's a benchmark lesson, it doesn't mean it was the exact same landscape, right? So we're going to pull from a photograph and we're going to draw what we see from a photographic reference. And so we've already done that once. We did it in the fall as a benchmark lesson. But that doesn't mean it was the same photograph. Like they could have picked something totally different that uses a different color scheme, that has a different composition. It's just the same lesson. And so I saw pictures. They were phenomenal. For our this week's lesson, they're going to be doing a self-portrait from life. So we're looking in a mirror and we're drawing what we see. Now, drawing from life is harder than drawing from photograph because photograph everything is pre-flattened for us. Like that step of having to take something three-dimensional and flatten it into a work of art, which is what we're doing when we're drawing, is already done for us when we're working from photograph. And so I can see the relative positioning of something that is nowhere near each other, right, within the depth of field when it's in a photograph, right? Because I can see exactly, but in life I can't. So I have to gauge that myself. So anyway, so we're going to be working from mirrors and drawing a self-portrait that way. And that is a lesson that you will do for the rest of your life if you're an artist. Is a self-portrait with a mirror. It's a good one. For our 102 illustrative, this is our month to work on cars and automobiles. I talked to Miss Grace about it a little bit, and she said, she told them they were drawing a Batmobile, basically. And they were like, that was the light bulb moment for everybody. And she was like, I should have led with that. So we're drawing, it's an accessory to their character. And understanding that, like, what type of vehicle would this character drive?
and what type of features would it have. And so they've been working on that, and they're working on making sure they can spin it in space, that it is in 3 dimensions, just like we would a human figure. It can be in different positions, that kind of stuff. As we move towards the end of the month, and I think it might be this week where we start to make it into a character. So now we're thinking the movie Cars, and the character itself is, or the car itself is its own character. So we've got an anthropomorphized vehicle. Okay. So it's been a challenge for them. For our 103s, we're working with Sumi Inc. in our illustrative class, and we're looking at the art of Frank Miller, which is super high contrast, very gestural, very dynamic, a little bit gritty. And they're working on it started on a smaller scale, and they are moving into a bigger scale, mostly because we're working with a little bit different material. We're not working in color. So we're only doing black and white. So that means if we don't have a step where we're going to have to color it all in alcoholic markers, like, we can spend a little bit more time on composition and understanding the tools. Now, we've used Sumi ink before, but we added in calligraphy nibs with this. And the nice thing about the calligraphy nibs, the glass pens, and the brushes is we get something that's a little bit more painterly and emphasis on like an unexpected mark making. Think about if I draw with a marker, I generally get, if it's a standard marker, not like a brush marker, I generally get just the same mark every single time. But if I grab a nib or a straw and I use like a scratching motion, I get a mark that is very different. So working on that. I know another challenge for these guys is that most of them are not detail anyway, pencil drawing anything. They might be pencil drawing kind of to sketch or a thumbnail, but when it gets down to the actual inkling part, we're just letting it flow. And that's a different way of working for these technical drawers. And so we worked small, and then we're hoping to get big starting this week on their kind of final or their finished artwork. Although we do have smaller mats, we'll probably mat the small ones too. For our 103 realistic, we are drawing with chalk pastels and working from landscapes and photographic references, which is something the realistic kids are very familiar with. It's a lot of times the first step in their project. This month is no exception, was finding a photo reference for them to work from, or multiple photo references if they want to combine. And then they are drawing a landscape from photograph using chalk pastels. And so we're working on building up base layers. We got to get, all of our colors layered in so that we're not seeing the background. In chalk pastels, it is a process where you're always layering colors. And so I think that's going to be really distracting to me. I usually remember to put that on silent before my day starts. Hang on. Pause. Right. So hopefully that, I'm like, oh, that's going to be really, all right. Okay, so for drawing 103 chalk pastels, one of the things that we worry about, because chalk is such a fast medium, is finishing a little bit too fast. And so for our artists in that realistic class, we're really emphasizing having lots of values and lots of layers and working from back to front, vague to detailed, dark or light to dark. And so hopefully we get some really great things. I know last year when we did this project, we worked really, really big. And it was great because it did take up the entire class time, like all 4 sessions. But we felt like maybe we didn't quite get the techniques in that we wanted because we had so much of volume in order to fill. So anyway, so that's where we're at with that. And next week I'll have to bring the pictures to show you. All right, for our housekeeping stuff, I've got 3 notes for you. The first is the art show. Just make sure you have your calendar marked. We can't wait to see you at the Bell Bar Winery. The staff got together this last week, and we went through all of the artwork in our individual studios. We went through all of the artwork, and we made sure that every piece of art had a submission form. We made sure that every piece of art was ready to hang. So we got them all wired up and ready to hang. And then we also put a label sticker on the back that has your studio name, your artist name, your class that you're in, and then your category. And that helps us for like next week when we all get together and we put all 300-ish pieces together and then divide it up for judging. It helps it get it back to you. So that's the plan there. So we're excited to see you guys. So mark your calendars, invite all your friends and neighbors and family. Last week of regular classes is the week of May 18th, and this is for drawing and multimedia and fundamentals and creative exploration. So ignore the second part of that statement where it talks about open studios.
And just understand that the last week of regular classes is the week of May 18th. Now, for my drawing and my multimedia kids, we still have to get you 4 classes. And so the week of May 18th is 3 classes. The 4th class is going to be after Memorial Day week, or after Memorial Day, which is the 25th. The 26th and the 28th, which is Tuesday, Thursday, are open studio sessions, just like we did for Thanksgiving week and Christmas week. And so we'll have signups for that in the first week of May's video. Okay. We won't worry about it now, but just so you know, some people are asking. That's what's coming. All right, and then I'm working on content. This is something that is a small business owner job, is social media content, and so I'm working on video content. If anybody would love to tell the world what Orange Easel means to you, we're going to be doing some interviews just to get content, just to get a blurb, right? And then we're going to edit things together into different videos. Though you won't see them until probably fall by the time, but it's easier for me to get it now before y'all leave for summer. So we'll do a lot at the art studio or art show as well. But in the studio, we would love to get parents. We'd love to get kids that just want to answer some interview questions about their experience with Orange Easel and what it's meant to you and your family. So we're looking for people to interview. If you're like, that's me, I'm in for that, send me an email and I'll make sure to get you. Just because you don't send me an email doesn't mean I may not get you. That's how that works. Okay. I promise that I will make sure that everybody looks great in video. Promise. All right. Oh, and also we've got so we are doing some video interviews. There's also, I was like looked at my notes here. There's also fall in August that we partner with Northland Lifestyle magazine and they want to do an article on our artists. And so if you would be interested in being featured in that, we have an interview for that as well. So, and that would just be a picture like of your kids' art and then a little bit about them and their experience with art as an artsy kid. So if you're interested in that, send me an email. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick people. All right. I think that's it, you guys. Those are all my notes. If you need anything from me, let me know. I'll be here at the studio all week. Busy time of year. I know it is. So if we have we see a real decline in attendance as we hit towards the end of the year, because there's the band concerts and there's the spring plays and there's the nice weather, right? And the spring sports have started and we're outside. So I know that it's hard to juggle everything at the end of the school year. So if you're missing classes, please don't feel bad. Makeups are there for a reason. If the normal makeup time doesn't work for you, reach out to us and we'll find an alternative time for you. And if that still doesn't work, please don't feel bad about it. We'll try to get you caught up in class. We really will. As opposed to having one more thing on your plate at this kind of end of the school year stuff. Okay. So yeah, that's all I got for you. I hope you have a really, really, really great week, you guys.